Hello everyone, and welcome to the first video in my new series, Games for Non-Gamers. Basically just teaching non-gamers how to game. Hope it works out. We're going to start off with the FPS genre, that stands for first person shooter. And as you can see in the background, I have Doom 2016 running. This is a great game. I decided to use it because id Software, the developers, really went back to their roots here. They went back to the 90s kind of play style. It's very adrenaline fueled, fast paced action, no aim down sights. I'll explain what that means later. So I decided, hey, why not? It's a great game, critically acclaimed, fans love it as well. So let's do it. And another good reason is Doom Eternal, the next in the franchise, just came out. Came out on the 20th here. We're recording this on the 25th of March, so it's only been out a few days. I haven't got it yet. I'm not going to get it anytime soon because I'm a patient gamer, so that means I tend to not buy new releases. I usually buy a game maybe 6 months to a year or more after its release. And I do that because, one, it's cheaper, and generally it has a lot of bug fixes and DLCs and patches in it, so it's a more complete game and usually a better quality product. Not that Doom 2016 wasn't when it was released. By all accounts, I believe it was pretty well, or went pretty well. But we'll see, how it goes in the future. Maybe I'll go back to Doom Eternal and check it out. But right now we're just going to stick with Doom 2016 because it's a fairly simple game. And it's, I think, a good start to get into the FPS genre. Alright, before we get started here, I'm just going to give a little warning that this is a very violent, bloody, and gory video game. So you're going to see a lot of guts. A lot of demon guts, but guts nonetheless. And as you can see here, it's very mature. There's a lot of satanic and demonic themes. Basically, you're a soldier, or a really pissed off soldier, that's breaking into the bowels of hell and just slaughtering everything that gets in his path. So there's going to be a lot of blood and guts. Personally, I don't mind that kind of stuff. I actually enjoy violent video games. I know it's not real. I'm an adult. But I can understand that a lot of people won't like that. So going forward, just keep that in mind once we get to gameplay. In this particular video, we're not going to really show any gameplay. This is just an introduction video in the FPS genre. We're probably just going to be going over menu options and campaign mode and difficulties and things like that. So you don't have to worry about any of that here, but when I get to the videos that actually do have gameplay, you just might want to tune out if you're not a fan of like blood and gore and things like that. So just keep in mind going forward that you have been warned. If you've watched my introduction video that I released before this, you'll know that I'm almost exclusively a PC gamer or a personal computer gamer. I don't really use consoles anymore, such as PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo, because over the years, I just discovered that PC is just far more powerful, it's more upgradable, and it has a bit more diverse cast when it comes to genres of video games. There's just more variety. And that doesn't necessarily mean we won't be using controller. I tend to use a PS4 controller hooked up to my PC when I want to play RPGs like The Witcher, or Skyrim, or Kingdom Come Deliverance. Something that's very immersive and story-driven where I just want to sit back, relax. But when it comes to FPS, mouse and keyboard is almost always the optimal way. As you can see here, due to my cursor, that I have a mouse and keyboard set up right now. Also, you can look down here where it has the options to enter, select, escape, exit, and R credits. Those are definitely keyboard options. But if you want to see, I can plug in my PlayStation 4 controller and give it a few seconds, and you'll notice that there will be a change in the options here as it changes to controller options, and then it signifies, hey, you're using a controller over here. So this will be the PlayStation controllers. Actually, I take that back. This will be the Xbox buttons that will have portrayed here because it is on Windows. But I do use a PS4 controller with an emulator, so it thinks it's an Xbox controller, but it's actually a PS4 controller. So I'm going to unplug that, and then it goes back to my keyboard options here. Now, going forward, just keep that in mind that I'm very much a PC gamer, and generally I will be making discussions and using jargon and references that are solely PC. Now, if you're a casual gamer or a veteran gamer, then know that this series really isn't made for you. This is specifically designed to cater to non-gamers, people that have little to no experience in gaming whatsoever. So a lot of the stuff that I'll be going over here, a lot of the details you might find tedious as a veteran gamer because it's stuff that you're pretty much already probably know. Again, this is designed for non-gamers, so I'm going to go over every little basic thing in detail, start from scratch, go over all the simple stuff that most people in the gaming industry know, but those that are outside of the gaming world are just going to have probably no idea what I'm talking about. So I want to go over every little thing in detail to get it in their head and hopefully titrate them up to a reasonable level. Alright, so let's get started, shall we? The first thing you're going to notice once you start up the game is you're going to hit the splash screens. That's going to be these little icons which show basically the developer and studio's logos just saying, hey, we started the game. It's going to have some cool graphics and everything on it. Doom doesn't have a cinematic screen, I don't believe, or cinematics video rather. But a lot of games do. They just have a little snippet video at the start saying, hey, this is what the game is about, or it might have some narrative or something. It just depends on the game. But with Doom, generally you just have the splash screens and then you get straight to the main menu, which is where we are at right here. Now, the main menu of the video games is basically just the start of the game. This is where you have options and things like that. Generally, the first thing you want to do as a PC gamer, as a console gamer too as well, but you know, it's way more important in PC gaming, is go over to the options in the settings menu. You want to go there and you start tweaking your stuff to match your performance and optimization and everything. We're not going to do that right now. That'll probably be in the next video because it's fairly complex. But right now we're just going to go over the simpler stuff, you know, introduce you to the FPS genre and just games too, and as a whole. And so in the main menu here, we're just going to look over these options. This middle part, these are just advertisements kind of just saying, hey, you know, join the club, go buy Doom Eternal, it's out right now. As you can ignore all this stuff, this isn't really important. Pre-order Doom is generally a bad idea. Pre-ordering in general is a bad idea. I wouldn't recommend it. You're just kind of giving your money away and you're not knowing what the result of the game will be. I'll probably do a video about that later. But, you know, advertising their other games and stuff is, you know, can be annoying sometimes, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. You can just ignore all this stuff. At the bottom here, we're going to have the enter select option. So enter is just, you know, pretty much what it does. If I hover over something, let's do campaign. If I just hit enter, and then it's going to go into the campaign mode. Hit escape, it's going to go back. Or if I hit escape at the main menu, it says exit. Then it's going to ask you, hey, this is going to be a confirmation screen. Are you sure you want to quit the game? All unsaved progress will be lost. No, we don't want to quit the game. We don't want to do that. And you have R credits right here. So if I hit R, then it's going to also ask, the Doom credits contain spoilers if you haven't completed the game. Do you want to continue? Yeah, sure. We'll just take a quick look at it. So the confirmation screens are pretty nice to have. Sometimes you might hit them by accident, and they can take a little while to load if your PC isn't that good. But we don't want to give any spoilers, so we're not going to look at all of this. But, you know, it's just the option is there to look at credits and stuff, and that's not bad. And you see an escape option right here to skip the credits, so hit escape and it'll bump you right back to the main menu. Now we have, these are the three meat of the game right here. This is the three major modes, I guess you can say. We're going to be focusing on campaign mode, which is going to be the single player mode. Most games have just a single player campaign when it comes to FPS, but some will have a cooperative campaign as well, so you can play with friends, or sometimes just one player, additional player. Sometimes you can play with more, just depends on the game. But Doom, they only have a single player campaign. So this is basically the main meat of the game. This is the main, I guess you could say, story mode. Multiplayer is pretty much just what it sounds like. It's multiple players that you're playing with. Generally, you're going to be playing PvP, which is person versus person or player versus player. So we're not going to be delving into that, mainly because the scene in Doom 2016 is dead. So there really isn't any multiplayer games. I believe you can have bots, which is just AI controlled players, but I haven't looked into it because I just never was able to get into any games, so we're not going to be looking into that. Snap Map is Doom's version of a level editor or map editor. Basically, you can go in here and just create some fun little maps and everything. And I believe you can set them up on the market kind of so other players can play. But again, I believe the multiplayer scene is kind of dead. I don't know for sure. I just haven't been able to get into any games. So we're pretty much not going to be looking at these two options, unfortunately. We're mainly going to just be sticking with the campaign mode for now, single player. So if we click on campaign here, that'll bring us to the campaign selection screen. As you can see, we have 3 save slots right here. What a save slot is basically a different playthrough on each one. I only have one here because that's an old one actually. I haven't played since July 28, 2019. Wow, even has the time here. That's nice. And I played on Ultra Violence, which is a higher difficulty. Not the highest, but higher. I only did one playthrough. I generally only play one playthrough on most games unless it's a very story-driven narrative kind of game, where you have multiple options and branching off of storylines and stuff like that. I might play those multiple times. But as far as Doom just being an FPS, it's pretty linear story. The replay value is there, but it's just not something I generally take part in. So, we'll probably look into my campaign later, mainly be using that for demonstrations. Right here we have 2 other empty slots. So what are these? These are basically other slots for new campaigns. So if I wanted to do a different playthrough, maybe a different difficulty, or maybe different settings, or maybe different just options for my guns, because you can level up your weapons and kind of change them and customize them the way you want. That's just an option there. So you can do 3 different ones, it looks like. Arcade mode it's kind of just like a fun little, I'll click on here, show you. It's basically like a score modifier competition. So like its name, arcade, basically it goes back to the roots of the arcades in the 80s and 90s, where everything was score based. That was your drive. You would play to get the highest score and to beat other players' score and beat your own score. This is pretty much the same thing. You have a leaderboard here, ranking system, which actually, from the looks of it, this Cyber Badich guy is actually top dog in almost all of them. So that's what this is all about. It's score based. You just want to get the highest score, so you just keep playing the different levels over and over and over again, trying to beat your score and other players' score. Gives the game some replayability. I personally am not a big fan of this kind of stuff. I don't really care about score based gameplay. A lot of people do though. So if that's your cup of tea, you might enjoy it. You can even, if you look down here at the options, you can change your leaderboard filter if you hit E on the keyboard, and it just shows me, and I'm nothing. I am no one. A and D will switch through the pages, and then so you'll see the lower ranks there. Go back if you hit A on the keyboard, and then you'll go back to the top ranks. So some people like this. Again, it's not really my cup of tea, but hey, better options is always better, right? Each to their own. So we're going to hit escape, go back to the campaign mode here. We'll mostly be using my already played and completed game. Don't want to delete it. You can see you have the option to delete any save slot down here. But when we actually get to gameplay, this is what we'll most likely be sticking with, because I can just show you how to choose between different levels and whatnot. We're not going to be doing like a complete playthrough or anything like that, as this is just a starting phase just to get people familiar with the game mechanics and whatnot. So just to test this out, we're just going to go to new slot right here, and you can see it says start new campaign. So we'll click on that. You have a few options here. Mission select and rune trial select are grayed out. You can't select them, mainly because we haven't started a campaign yet, so there's no missions that you can go back and replay. As well as with rune trial select, there's no rune trials you can go back and replay. We'll get into rune trials a little later on. Settings, like I said before, we'll probably be doing in the next video, because there's just a lot to cover there and can be kind of complex. So we'll do that another time. So we're going to click on start campaign here to start a new campaign, and that will bring us to the next screen, which is the difficulty screen. Generally on most games, if you look at this from top to bottom, that's going to be from easiest to most difficult. So in this case, you can also just read the descriptions, read the titles, and for this case you can say I'm too young to die versus Ultra Nightmare. Generally that'll give you an idea of which is easiest and which is most difficult. And also something that's very important as a gamer, especially a PC gamer, you want to read. Just take the time to read. If there's text there, just give it a read. On this case, you see these tooltips on the side. They will explain everything for you, just to show you and describe what each difficulty entails. For instance, I'm too young to die. Select this difficulty if you prefer a more relaxed gaming experience. This is generally the mode you want to do if you are a new gamer or a noob. We call this easy mode in the gaming world. Most difficult mode, it'll say, this is Nightmare with one major adjustment. If you die, your campaign is over, and a death marker will be left behind as a reminder of how far you progressed. So that's not really my cup of tea. That just basically means you have one life on the most difficulty setting, which is Nightmare. So you die and that's it. Game over. You have to restart the entire campaign. A lot of people might dig that. Not really my cup of tea. I'm too impatient for that. So I played on Ultra Violence, which is just for players who want a challenge. It tested you. It wasn't too hard, but it was fun. It was challenging. Hurt Me Plitty says choose this difficulty if you want to play the game without any adjustments. So this is basically just normal mode, default mode. And, Nightmare is just for the expert player. I wouldn't mind playing that probably, but for now, you just, as a new gamer, may want to stick with the easy mode, I'm Too Young to Die, if you ever decide to play Doom 2016. Alright, that should do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This is just supposed to be a little introduction to the FPS genre. Nothing too fancy, just going over the menus and explaining a couple little things like difficulties and whatnot. Next video, we'll be delving into the settings and options menu. That's going to be a way more complex endeavor. A lot of that stuff I don't even understand, so hey, we'll get through it together, yeah? Before you end the video, just make sure you check out the jargons list that I'll be putting up at the end. That's just going to have a lot of definitions and references to some of the gaming jargon that I may have used. Probably, doing that going forward at the end of each video, just adding a little jargon list that explains some of the stuff that most people might not understand that aren't gamers. So just be sure to check that out, and until then, I guess I'll bid you adieu. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where you are. I'm out.